Welcome to the Radio Scilly video report. Subscribe at youtube.com/Radio Scilly to be alerted when we upload new video reports. The video report in association with Carnveen Tea Rooms.
There's a treat waiting for you on your walk around St Mary's. Spoil yourself at Carnveen Cafe with a break for morning coffee, lunch or afternoon tea, inside or in a large garden close to Pellistry Beach. Try our large selection of fresh cakes and delicious cream teas. We have a large range of sandwiches, toasted sandwiches and jacket potatoes, or pick up one of our proper Cornish steak pasties. Anne and Frank are waiting to welcome you every day from 10 until 5 at Carnveen Cafe and Tea Garden.
Have you enjoyed your stay here?
It's been marvellous. There have been difficult times, as there will in any job, and obviously here in a small place it can be exasperated sometimes, but certainly leaving with very, very fond memories and very pleased we came. And I think if it was, we're leaving basically because the job came up and I looked at how old I am, how desirable it is, and my employment sort of future. And if I leave it another 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I'm of a certain age then and been away from sea too long. So I think if I was younger I would be staying longer, but it's that next step of the career that probably is the last one sort of thing.
I think a lot of people would be sorry to see you go, particularly in mind of some of the facilities and improvements you've made, not just in the quay but in maritime affairs in general. The most recent, I suppose, is the refuelling access in the middle of the quay.
Yeah, that was, although we were involved in that, that's not really our thing. I think the Sydneys have to have a fair bit of credit for that. They've funded the project because it is their fuel terminal. Obviously we've been involved in the start with the sort of planning side of it and the permission side of it and access. But yeah, I think that'll be a very good difference. For visiting yachts, there was obviously only certain times they could fuel. For locals and visitors with petrol, it was quite a tricky operation and sort of laborious. So that should be a major improvement to the quay. But as I said, I can't take too much credit for that one. That's Sibley's really.
The thing about introducing new things, whether it's in the quay or the town or anything, there's always an element that say, oh, what a load of rubbish that is. but one thing that has got universal approval is the pontoons.
Yeah, it was a bit of a gamble. We saw an area of, again, for visitors and locals alike, and commercial users, leisure users, it was obviously very busy in the corner of the quay there. That was the only access to get small boats in, and it was almost a limiting factor. The harbour could be relatively, have a bit of space left, but that corner was absolutely overflowing. And having seen things like that in the past and having to sort of get the press magazines through and spotted things, I thought this could work here. And hopefully with a bit of my background knowledge and a bit of research into it, which we didn't rush into this. We spent a good year or two looking at various places, and if I was on the mainland I'd go visiting places that had it. And we were kind of confident it would work, although it was, it wasn't definite because there are some tricky sea conditions here and some rough weather. But pleased to say, yeah, it's had its first full year, it's now gone back in again and it's lasted well, and I think it has worked, and it's created a much nicer area down there. One
of which again has received pretty well universal approval was the ramps over at Porthlow for getting the big passenger boats, or any boat come to that, up and down the slipway there at Porthlow. Yeah,
it's been another one which seems a relatively simple idea and you think, why didn't we do it before, sort of thing, but it's not until you closely look at something. Most of the things we've done in the harbour since I've been here have come from our ideas, but it's been led by legislation, either DFT or health and safety or whatever, and we're afraid we have to comply as everyone else does. So when we get this thing, we've got to look at this, improve this. We then sort of go out and research on how we can do it. When we came across the ground guards, again I think it was through the magazines. We get obviously lots of nautical magazines published through to us, and it thought, well, hang on a minute, that works on the ground, why can't it work on the beach? And with speaking to the companies and all that, and they were going, a new area for them, I think, but they were saying, yeah, in principle that should work. So a relatively cheap, again, sort of alternative to a problem. And it's been the first step of looking at the boat park, because obviously there are things there that need improving and need changing and updating. And that was sort of one of the first steps last year, and as you said, it's gone quite well and pleasing to see a fairly simple solution to a problem we had.
You mentioned cruise ships just now, and over the years there's been an average of about 20-22, but this year's a huge jump in the number of cruise ships coming, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been more than we expected. It's been a gradual climb. I think the tourism of the whole islands has noticed that the cruise ships play a bigger part. It is a growing economy around the whole world, and especially in Europe. More people are taking cruise holidays, so I think there's more around. these islands are, without doubt, one of the most spectacular places to visit in the whole of the UK, if not Europe, if not the world. So therefore we have that natural attraction, but you have to make sure that people get their value when they come here. And I think that's something that the community has been working on more and more. We've hopefully sort of fulfilled our requirements, both legislation-wise and what we can offer them, and people are enjoying their visits and finding what a wonderful place this is, and so it's growing. And this year, for some reason, we're not quite sure yet, there seems an unexpected rise, or more than we would expect, but that's obviously welcome, and now we need to make sure that they enjoy themselves.
And of course the Duchy of Cornwall have been one of the key players as well in attracting cruise liners to Scilly as well over the years, haven't they?
Yeah, they're very firmly backing tourism, you know, through island marketing. They strongly look at how the cruise ships come. There's a figure bandied around from the cruise industry of something around the idea of 56% or even 60% of people visiting on a cruise ship will return as an independent traveller. So it's an amazing advertising tool, and I think people are realising that more and more, and the Duchy have certainly put considerable sums into assisting us, making them welcome, and the pilot boat, etc. But also from a marketing point of view through the islands, they've done a lot of work on that to try and make that grow.
Claire, I want to talk to you now about the management of the quay. I mean, that must be a major headache at times. I'm thinking, well, for several things really. First of all, the use of the quay steps. I mean, that's obviously the most obvious one. Yeah, people see that going on, but it's a balancing act, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Obviously, we've got various user groups within the harbour. We've got pleasure craft, we've got commercial operators, we've got fishermen, we've got commercial shipping, we've got visiting yachtsmen, sailing skills. You know, a very wide spread of customers in a very small harbour. And although mostly it kind of works, there's been agreements in place for a long time of roughly who uses the steps when. Obviously each user group just sees their problem. You know, we have to, as the sort of harbour authority and controlling authority, we have to juggle everyone's needs. And so I think in the times, if anyone has been sort of upset because they couldn't quite get what they wanted when they wanted, in hindsight they understand that, you know, we are trying for the best of all users. But again, it's pretty good. I think if you looked at other bigger harbours and bigger places that would have similar problems to us, I don't think they'd believe quite how the traffic we get through that quay and those steps, and that's in no short part to everyone having that little bit of patience and understanding. But as I say, if people haven't quite got what they wanted, I hope they realise we're doing it for the good of all.
The quay is always has been, and always will be, as far as I'm concerned, the hub of Scilly. Really, it's the major point of contact. And of course, it's not just used for moving people around, but also events as well, such as the Gig Championships.
Yeah, and again, when you think that the harbour is so busy anyway, we describe all the user groups and everything, and then all of a sudden you can bring an event in like Gig Weekend. Again, it seems amazing. But I think again, because it's run for so many years, and there are some very dedicated people involved in the Gig Weekend, although it's grown, the backbone is the same. And as long as the weather's nice and there are no problems, for us it's kind of a pleasurable weekend. We do certainly some long hours, and we put some long work in. But most of it's just supervising and a little bit of guidance here and there to keep it on track. But say with a great team behind it from the championship committee and everything, it almost runs itself, if that's not too a flippant way of putting it. But no, it's a great spectacle again in an already full harbour.
And your last day is this coming Friday?
This Friday, yeah, we're leaving on the boat on Friday, so I'm actually at work on Friday and then just sneaking off that hour early to jump on the Scilly. But yeah, that's my last day in the office.
I'm sure you'd like to thank a few people for you work with as well.
Yeah, not just work with the community as well. We've met some wonderful people here. They've made us very welcome. They've been very helpful. A lot of the customers that use the harbour, you know, there's good days, there's bad days, but you also know that when there's a problem or an issue, they're there to help you, and that's been greatly appreciated. And certainly to the two guys in the office, Alan and Mike have come on this journey with me, and they've both been stunning. And I mean, no doubt that they'll be able to carry on the work we've started. And it's very easy for me to sit here and sort of say, claim the pontoons and the walkways and everything was great ideas. It's been a team effort. You know, they've been involved in it all the way through, and they've been involved in the hard work as well.